My son's imaginary school friend turns out to be the ghost of my childhood best friend, and now they're solving cold cases together. I've always been a bit of a skeptic when it comes to the paranormal. As a homicide detective, I've seen my fair share of weird and unexplained occurrences, but I've always tried to find a logical explanation for them. That was until my son, Archer, started talking about his imaginary friend, Raphael. At first, I thought it was just a normal part of childhood development, but as time went on, I started to notice that Archer was spending an awful lot of time with this friend, and he seemed to be having some very real conversations with him. I would catch glimpses of Archer talking to someone, but when I turned to look, there would be no one there. I brushed it off as my imagination, but as the days went by, I started to get a little spooked. One night, I was putting Archer to bed when he started telling me about Raphael's day. He said that Raphael had gone to school with him and had even helped him with his homework. I was about to tell him that Raphael wasn't real when he dropped a bombshell. "Dad, Raphael said he used to be friends with you when you were a kid." I was taken aback. How could Archer possibly know that? I had never told him about my childhood friends, and I certainly hadn't mentioned anyone by the name of Raphael. I decided to play along and see where this would go. "What did Raphael say about our friendship?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Archer thought for a moment before responding. "He said you guys were inseparable, and that you used to explore the woods behind your house all the time." I felt a chill run down my spine. That was exactly what I used to do with my best friend, Raphael, when we were kids. We would spend hours exploring those woods, and I had forgotten all about it until now. I started to wonder if this was more than just a coincidence. Over the next few weeks, I started to notice that Archer and Raphael were spending more and more time together. They would go on adventures in the woods, and Archer would come back with stories about the amazing things they had seen and done. I was starting to get a little worried that Archer was becoming too attached to this imaginary friend, but at the same time, I was curious about what was going on. One day, I decided to follow Archer and Raphael on one of their adventures. I trailed behind them, trying not to be seen as they made their way deeper into the woods. As I watched, I realized that Raphael was more than just an imaginary friend. He was a ghost. I saw him flicker in and out of visibility, and I could sense a presence around him that wasn't quite human. I was shocked, but at the same time, I was fascinated. How was this possible, and what did it mean for my son? As I continued to watch, I saw that Raphael and Archer were working on some kind of puzzle. They were examining old bones and trying to piece together a skeleton. I realized that they were trying to solve a cold case, one that had gone unsolved for decades. I decided to make my presence known and approached them. "What are you guys doing?" I asked, trying to sound casual. Archer turned to me with a big grin on his face. "We're solving a mystery, Dad," he exclaimed. Raphael turned to me and our eyes met for the first time in years. It was like no time had passed at all. "Hello, old friend," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I was taken aback, but I tried to play it cool. "Raphael, it's been a long time," I said, trying to sound casual. "What are you doing here?" Raphael explained that he had been stuck between worlds for decades, unable to move on. But when Archer had started talking to him, he had found a new purpose. Together, they had started working on solving cold cases, using Raphael's knowledge of the past to help crack the crimes. I was amazed. I had always known that Raphael was a brilliant detective, but I had no idea that he had been using his skills to help solve crimes from beyond the grave. Over the next few weeks, I worked with Archer and Raphael to solve the cold case they had been working on. It was a tough one, but with Raphael's insight and Archer's enthusiasm, we were able to crack it. The police were amazed, and soon, word got out about the ghost detective who was helping to solve cold cases. People started to come to us with their unsolved crimes, and we were happy to help. It's been a few months now, and we've solved several cases. It's been an incredible experience, and I'm grateful to have Raphael back in my life, even if it is in a non-traditional way. Update 1. I've been getting a lot of requests to share more about our cases, so I thought I'd give you a brief update on what we've been working on. Our latest case was a real challenge. A young woman had gone missing, and the police had given up hope of finding her. But Archer and Raphael were determined to crack the case. They spent hours poring over the evidence, and Raphael used his knowledge of the past to help us track down leads. It wasn't easy, but eventually, we were able to find the woman's body and bring closure to her family. It was a tough case, but it was also a reminder of the importance of our work. We're not just solving crimes, We're helping to bring justice to families who have been torn apart by tragedy. Update 2. I've been getting a lot of questions about how Raphael and Archer communicate, so I thought I'd share a bit more about that. It's actually quite amazing. Raphael can communicate with Archer telepathically, which is how they're able to work together so seamlessly. But what's even more incredible is that Raphael can also communicate with objects. He can sense the history of an object and use that to help us solve cases. It's a bit like he has a sixth sense, and it's been invaluable in our investigations. Update 3. We've just solved another case, and it's been a real game changer. A man had been murdered, and the police had no leads. But Raphael and Archer were able to use their unique skills to track down the killer. It was a tough case, but in the end, justice was served. I'm so proud of the work that Raphael and Archer are doing, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. It's not always easy, but it's worth it to see the impact that we're having on people's lives.
I caught my grandmother sneaking out of her nursing home. Turns out she's teaching self-defense classes at women's shelters, and I'm still trying to process everything. I've always been close to my grandmother, Amara. She's a feisty and independent woman who has always been there for me. When my parents were busy, she'd watch me and my siblings, teaching us how to cook, garden, and even fix things around the house. She's always been a bit of a rock for our family. A few years ago, she had to move into a nursing home due to her health declining. It was a hard adjustment for all of us, but we knew it was necessary. I visit her every week, and we usually spend our time chatting, playing games, or watching movies together. However, over the past few months, I've noticed that she's been acting strange. She'd often be tired or distant during our visits, and when I'd ask her what was wrong, she'd just brush it off and say she was fine. One evening, I decided to visit her a bit later than usual. As I was pulling into the parking lot, I saw my grandmother sneaking out of the nursing home. I was shocked and a bit worried, so I quickly got out of my car and followed her from a distance. She walked a few blocks to a small community center, and I watched as she went inside. I was about to follow her in when I noticed a sign on the door that read Women's Self-Defense Classes. I was even more confused now. What was my grandmother doing at a self-defense class? I decided to wait outside and observe. After about an hour, the class ended, and my grandmother came out with a group of women. They were all chatting and laughing, and my grandmother was beaming with pride. I realized then that she must be the one teaching the class. I was amazed and a bit concerned. How was my grandmother, who has health issues and is in her 70s, teaching self-defense classes? I decided to confront her about it the next day. When I visited her at the nursing home, I asked her directly about what I had seen. At first, she tried to brush it off, but I could tell she was proud of what she was doing. She eventually opened up and told me that she had been teaching self-defense classes at the women's shelter for months. She said that she had always been passionate about empowering women and giving them the tools they need to protect themselves. She told me that it was something she had been doing for years, even before she moved into the nursing home. I was in awe of my grandmother's dedication and strength. I asked her why she hadn't told me or anyone else in the family about it, and she said that she didn't want to worry us. She knew that we'd try to stop her, and she didn't want that to happen. I couldn't blame her for that. I was proud of her for taking matters into her own hands and doing something she was passionate about. Update 1. I've been helping my grandmother with her self-defense classes for a few weeks now. It's been an incredible experience, and I've learned so much from her. The women who attend the classes are all survivors of domestic violence or abuse, and it's amazing to see the transformation in them after just a few sessions. My grandmother is an incredible teacher, and her passion is contagious. She's taught me so much about self-defense, but more importantly, she's taught me about the importance of empowering women and giving them the tools they need to protect themselves. I've also started helping out at the women's shelter, and it's been a real eye-opener. The stories I've heard and the women I've met have been truly inspiring. I've realized that there's so much more to life than just my own problems and worries. I've started to appreciate the small things and to be grateful for what I have. My grandmother's self-defense classes have not only helped the women at the shelter, but they've also helped me to find a new sense of purpose. Update 2. I've been thinking a lot about my grandmother's past and how it shaped her into the person she is today. I've always known that she grew up in a difficult time and had to overcome many challenges, but I never knew the full extent of it. Recently, I asked her to tell me more about her childhood and how she learned self-defense. She told me that she grew up in a poor neighborhood and had to learn how to defend herself from a young age. She said that she was always a bit of a tomboy and was never afraid to stand up for herself. She learned self-defense from her father, who was a martial arts instructor. As she got older, she began to teach self-defense classes to other women in her community. She said that it was something that she was passionate about, and it gave her a sense of purpose. She continued to teach self-defense classes throughout her life, even when she moved into the nursing home. I'm in awe of my grandmother's strength and resilience. She's an incredible woman, and I feel so lucky to have her in my life. I've also been thinking about how I can help her to continue teaching self-defense classes. I've been looking into ways to make the classes more accessible to women who may not be able to afford them. I've also been talking to the administrators at the nursing home to see if they can provide any support or resources to help my grandmother continue her classes. Update 3. It's been a few months since I started helping my grandmother with her self-defense classes, and it's been an incredible journey. I've learned so much from her, and I've seen the impact that her classes have had on the women at the shelter. I've also been able to help her to continue teaching classes, and we've even been able to expand the program to reach more women. My grandmother's health has been improving, and she's been able to attend more classes and events. She's even started to teach classes at the nursing home, which has been a huge success. The other residents have been loving the classes, and it's been a great way for them to stay active and engaged. I've been thinking a lot about my grandmother's legacy and how I can help to carry it on. I've been talking to her about setting up a nonprofit organization to provide self-defense classes to women in need. She's been thrilled with the idea, and we've already started to make plans. It's been an incredible experience, and I feel so grateful to have my grandmother in my life. I know that I'll always be able to count on her, and I'm so proud of the woman she is. Update 4. We've been working on setting up the nonprofit organization, and it's been a lot of work. We've had to navigate a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy, but it's been worth it. We've been able to secure funding and support from some amazing organizations, and we're getting ready to launch our first official program. My grandmother is going to be the director of the program, and I'll be helping her to manage it. We're both so excited to see where this journey takes us. We've also been getting a lot of interest from other organizations and communities who want to partner with us. It's been amazing to see how much support there is for this kind of program. I've been thinking a lot about how I can help to make a bigger impact with this organization. I've been talking to my grandmother about expanding the program to reach more women and communities. We've also been discussing ways to provide more resources and support to the women who attend our classes. It's been an incredible journey so far, and I'm so grateful to have my grandmother by my side. Update 5. It's been a year since we launched our nonprofit organization, and it's been an incredible success. We've been able to provide self-defense classes to hundreds of women, and we've seen the impact that it's had on their lives. My grandmother is still going strong, and she's still teaching classes and inspiring women everywhere. I've been able to take on more of a leadership role in the organization, and I've been able to help to expand our programs and services. We've also been able to partner with other organizations and communities to reach more women and provide more resources. It's been an amazing journey, and I'm so grateful to have my grandmother as my role model and mentor. I've learned so much from her, and I've been inspired by her strength and resilience. I know that I'll always be able to count on her, and I'm so proud of the woman she is. As I look back on this journey, I'm reminded of the importance of family and the impact that one person can have on the world. My grandmother's self-defense classes have changed the lives of countless women, and I know that her legacy will live on through our organization. I'm honored to be a part of this journey, and I'm excited to see where it takes us next. The woman who tried to steal my boyfriend in college is now my surrogate, and we've become inseparable friends. I met my boyfriend, Gavin, in college, and we quickly became inseparable. We were the golden couple, and everyone thought we were meant to be. But, like any relationship, we had our ups and downs. One of the most significant challenges we faced was when a woman named Rebecca tried to steal him away from me. She was beautiful, charming, and had a way with words that could manipulate anyone. I remember feeling so insecure and unsure of myself when she started flirting with Gavin. I would see them talking and laughing together, and I couldn't help but feel like I was losing him. But, despite her best efforts, Gavin remained committed to me, and we worked through the tough times. We eventually graduated, and Rebecca disappeared from our lives. Fast forward a few years, Gavin and I were married, and we had been trying to start a family. Unfortunately, I had struggled with infertility, and we had almost given up hope. That's when we decided to look into surrogacy. We met with several potential surrogates, but none of them felt right. Then one day, we received an email from a woman named Rebecca. I couldn't believe it. The same Rebecca who had tried to steal my boyfriend in college was now applying to be our surrogate. I was hesitant at first, but Gavin convinced me to meet with her. When we met, I was surprised by how much she had changed. She was no longer the manipulative and selfish person I remembered. She was kind, compassionate, and genuinely wanted to help us start a family. We decided to move forward with the surrogacy process, and Rebecca became our surrogate. The journey was not easy, but Rebecca was a rock for us. She went through the ups and downs of pregnancy with us, and we formed a bond that I never thought possible. As the due date approached, I found myself feeling more and more grateful for Rebecca. She had given us the greatest gift we could have ever asked for a child. After the baby was born, Rebecca and I became inseparable. We would meet for coffee, go for walks, and talk for hours about our lives. I realized that I had misjudged her all those years ago. She was not the villain I had made her out to be. She was a complex and multifaceted person who had made mistakes, just like the rest of us. Update 1. It's been 6 months since the baby was born, and Rebecca and I are still close. We have started a support group for surrogates and intended parents, and it's been a huge success. Rebecca has become a mentor to many of the surrogates, and I have been amazed by her wisdom and compassion. One day, Rebecca and I were talking, and she revealed to me that she had been struggling with her own fertility issues. She had always wanted to be a mother, but it seemed like it was not meant to be. I was taken aback by this revelation. The woman who had tried to steal my boyfriend in college was now opening up to me about her own vulnerabilities. I felt a deep sense of empathy for her, and our bond grew even stronger. We started talking about the possibility of Rebecca becoming a mother through adoption or another form of surrogacy. I offered to support her on this journey, and she was touched by my kindness. Update 2. It's been a year since we started the support group, and it's been life-changing for both Rebecca and me. We have met so many amazing people who are going through similar experiences, and we have formed a community that is supportive and loving. Rebecca and I have become like sisters, and our friendship has deepened. We have started to talk about our past and the mistakes we made. Rebecca apologized for her behavior in college, and I forgave her. I realized that we were both young and stupid, and we didn't know any better. We have both grown so much since then, and our friendship is a testament to that. One day, Rebecca came to me with some surprising news. She had met someone and she was in love. His name was Alex, and he was kind, handsome, and loving. Rebecca was beaming with happiness, and I was so happy for her. We started talking about wedding plans, and I offered to be her maid of honor. Update 3. It's been 2 years since Rebecca and I became friends, and our lives have changed in ways we never thought possible. Rebecca and Alex got married, and they have a beautiful baby boy. Gavin and I have a thriving family, and we are grateful for every moment we spend together. Rebecca and I are still inseparable, and our friendship has deepened. We have been through the ups and downs of life together, and we have come out stronger on the other side. I never thought that the woman who tried to steal my boyfriend in college would become one of my closest friends. But life is full of surprises, and sometimes the most unlikely people can become the ones we love and cherish the most. I am so grateful for Rebecca and the gift she has given us. She will always be a part of our lives, and we will always be grateful for her love and support.
My parents disowned me for marrying below my class. Now they're begging me to save their company from bankruptcy. I met my wife, Audrey, in college. We were both studying business and instantly clicked. We came from different backgrounds, though. I, Matthew, was from a wealthy family, and my parents, Henry and Victoria, were very particular about the people I associated with. They always wanted me to date someone with a similar social status, but I fell in love with Audrey, who came from a lower middle-class family. My parents were not pleased when I told them about us, but I thought they would understand and accept Audrey once they got to know her. However, that was not the case. They constantly criticized Audrey, saying she wasn't good enough for me, that she didn't come from the right family, and that she would never be able to provide the kind of life they wanted for me. I tried to ignore their comments and hoped that they would eventually come around, but it only got worse. When I decided to propose to Audrey, my parents were furious. They told me that if I married her, they would disown me and cut me out of the family business. I didn't care. I loved Audrey, and I knew she was the right person for me. So we got married in a small ceremony, and my parents did exactly as they had threatened. They cut me out of their lives and the family business. It was tough, but Audrey and I were happy together, and we built a life of our own. We started our own business, and it was doing well. We were proud of what we had accomplished, and we were excited to see what the future held. Fast forward 5 years, and I received a call from my father. He sounded desperate, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt for not being in touch. "Matthew, please, you have to help us," he said, his voice shaking. "The company is on the verge of bankruptcy, and we don't know what to do." I was taken aback. The family business had been thriving for years, and I couldn't believe it was on the verge of collapse. What happened? I asked, trying to sound calm. We made some bad investments, and the market has been tough, my father explained. We need someone with your business sense to help us get back on track. I was surprised that he was coming to me for help. After all, he had cut me out of the business and disowned me. Why should I help you? I asked, trying to keep my emotions in check. You made it clear that you didn't want me involved in the family business, and now you're asking for my help, my father sighed, and for a moment, I felt a glimmer of the man I used to know, the man who had loved and supported me. I know I wasn't there for you, Matthew, and I'm sorry, but please, you have to help us. Your mother is beside herself, and I don't know what to do. I was torn. A part of me wanted to help my parents, to save the family business and make things right, but another part of me was angry and hurt. Why should I help them after they had disowned me and cut me out of their lives? I decided to talk to Audrey about it to get her perspective. She listened to the whole story, and when I finished, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. You have to help them, Matthew, she said. Not for their sake, but for yours. You need to close this chapter and move on. Helping them will give you the closure you need. I thought about what she said, and I realized she was right. I would help my parents, but on my terms. I would do it to save the family business, but also to prove to myself that I was capable of success, that I had made the right decision in marrying Audrey. I called my father back and told him that I would help, but I would need full control of the company, and I would need to bring in my own team. My father agreed, and we started working on a plan to save the company. It wasn't easy, but with Audrey's support, I was determined to succeed. Update 1. It's been a month since I started working on the family business, and it's been a wild ride. My parents are still getting used to the fact that I'm in charge, and they're not always happy with my decisions. But I'm trying to stay focused and do what's best for the company. I've brought in a new team, and we're working on a plan to restructure the company and get it back on track. It's not going to be easy, but I'm confident that we can do it. My father is still struggling to accept that I'm in charge, but my mother is trying to be more supportive. She's even apologized for the way they treated Audrey, which means a lot to me. Audrey is being a rock, as always, and I don't know what I would do without her. She's helping me with the business, and her insights have been invaluable. I'm grateful to have her by my side as we navigate this challenging time. Update 2. It's been 6 months since I started working on the family business, and we're starting to see some progress. The company is still struggling, but we're making strides in the right direction. My parents are still not always easy to work with, but they're slowly coming around to the fact that I'm in charge. My father is still a bit resistant, but my mother is trying to be more supportive. She's even started to accept Audrey, which is a big step for her. Audrey is still my rock, and I don't know what I would do without her. She's been a huge help with the business, and her insights have been invaluable. We're starting to think about our future, and we're excited to see what's in store. We're talking about starting a family, and we're both thrilled at the prospect of becoming parents. Update 3. It's been a year since I started working on the family business, and I'm pleased to say that we've turned it around. The company is thriving, and we're all proud of what we've accomplished. My parents are still not always easy to work with, but they're slowly coming around to the fact that I'm in charge. My father is still a bit resistant, but my mother is trying to be more supportive. She's even started to accept Audrey as her daughter-in-law, which is a big step for her. Audrey is still my rock, and I don't know what I would do without her. She's been a huge help with the business, and her insights have been invaluable. We're starting to think about our future, and we're excited to see what's in store. We're talking about starting a family, and we're both thrilled at the prospect of becoming parents. My parents are even talking about being grandparents, which is a big step for them. I'm grateful that we're all moving forward and that we're able to put the past behind us. I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. My wife, Audrey, and I are finally happy, and we're excited to start this new chapter in our lives.
I discovered my father's stamp collecting hobby is actually him tracking down lost Holocaust art and returning it to families. And it's completely changed my perspective on the man I thought I knew. My father has always been a bit of an enigma to me. He's a quiet, reserved man who never talks much about his past or his interests. As a child, I would often try to get him to open up, but he would just smile and change the subject. One thing he did share with me, however, was his love of stamp collecting, or so I thought. For years, I assumed that my father spent his free time collecting and trading stamps, just like many other hobbyists. But it wasn't until recently that I stumbled upon the truth. I was going through some old family papers in the attic when I came across a folder labeled restitution. Inside, I found a stack of documents detailing the history of various artworks, along with letters and photographs. As I began to dig deeper, I discovered that my father had been secretly tracking down lost Holocaust art and returning it to the families of the original owners. I was shocked and amazed. How could my father have kept this from me for so long, and why? I decided to confront him, but I wanted to approach the conversation with sensitivity. I asked him to join me for a walk in the park, and as we strolled through the gardens, I brought up the subject. At first, he was hesitant to talk about it, but as I shared what I had found, he began to open up. He told me that he had always been fascinated by the stories of the Holocaust and the impact it had on the families and communities affected. As he grew older, he became determined to do something to help, and he discovered that many artworks had been looted by the Nazis during the war. He made it his mission to track down these lost pieces and return them to their rightful owners. I was amazed by his dedication and compassion. He shared with me stories of the families he had helped and the tears of joy he had seen when they were reunited with their lost treasures. I felt a sense of pride and admiration for my father that I had never felt before. As we walked, I asked him why he had kept this from me for so long. He explained that he didn't want to burden me with the weight of his work, and that he had been afraid of how I might react. He also shared that many of the families he had helped had asked him to keep their stories private, out of fear of reprisal or judgment. I understood his reasons, but I also felt a sense of regret that I had not been a part of this journey with him. Update 1. I've been learning more about my father's work and the history behind the lost artworks. It's been eye-opening to see the depth of the research and detective work that goes into tracking down these pieces. My father has shared with me some of the methods he uses, from scouring online marketplaces to working with historians and experts in the field. He's also introduced me to some of the families he's helped, and hearing their stories has been incredibly moving. One family in particular stands out: the Levines. They had a beautiful painting that had been passed down for generations, but it was taken by the Nazis during the war. My father worked tirelessly to track it down, and eventually, he was able to locate it in a private collection. The family was overjoyed to be reunited with their painting, and they've become close friends with my father. I've been thinking a lot about my own life and how I can make a positive impact. Seeing the difference my father has made in the lives of these families has inspired me to want to do more. I'm considering volunteering with a local organization that helps preserve cultural heritage, and I'm also looking into ways to support the families of Holocaust survivors. I feel like I've been given a new perspective on life, and I'm excited to see where this journey takes me. Update 2. I've been spending more time with my father, learning about his work and the stories behind the artworks. One of the most striking things about his collection is the way he's able to connect the dots between the different pieces. He's like a detective, following trails of clues and piecing together the histories of the artworks. I've been amazed by his attention to detail and his dedication to getting it right. Recently, we worked on a case together, tracking down a lost sculpture that had been created by a Jewish artist during the war. The sculpture had been hidden away for decades, and my father had been searching for it for years. With my help, we were finally able to locate it, and it was an incredible feeling to see it reunited with the artist's family. The family was overwhelmed with emotion, and it was clear that this piece of art was more than just a valuable object. It was a connection to their heritage and their history. As I watched my father work, I realized that this isn't just about returning lost art, it's about preserving the stories and the memories of the people who created it. It's about keeping their legacy alive. I'm grateful to be a part of this journey with my father, and I know that it will continue to shape me in ways I'm still discovering. Update 3. I've been thinking a lot about the concept of restitution and what it means to make amends for past wrongs. My father's work has shown me that it's not just about returning physical objects, but about acknowledging the harm that was done and working to heal the wounds of the past. I've been seeing this play out in the families my father has helped, and it's been incredible to witness. One family, in particular, has stuck with me: the Rosenbergs. They had a beautiful antique Torah that had been passed down for generations, but it was taken by the Nazis during the war. My father worked tirelessly to track it down, and eventually, he was able to locate it in a museum. The family was overjoyed to be reunited with their Torah, and they've been using it in their synagogue ever since. But what struck me was the way the museum handled the situation. They could have fought to keep the Torah, citing its historical significance and cultural value. But instead, they chose to return it to the Rosenbergs, acknowledging that it was rightfully theirs. It was a powerful act of restitution, and it's a testament to the impact my father's work has had on the world. I'm grateful to be a part of this journey, and I know that it will continue to shape me in ways I'm still discovering. As I look to the future, I know that I want to continue my father's work, using my skills and resources to help return lost artworks to their rightful owners. It's a challenging and complex task, but I'm inspired by my father's dedication and perseverance. I know that together, we can make a difference, one artwork at a time.
I gave my judgmental aunt a job at my startup. Turns out she's a brilliant innovator, and now she's the one judging me. My aunt, Christine, has always been the judgmental type. She's always quick to point out what I'm doing wrong and offer her opinions on how I could do things better. As a child, it was annoying, but as an adult, it's just plain frustrating. So when I decided to start my own startup, I wasn't exactly thrilled when my parents suggested that I hire her. They told me that she was looking for a new challenge and that she would be a great asset to my team. I was skeptical, but I decided to give her a chance. I figured that even if she wasn't the most pleasant person to be around, she might have some useful skills or insights to offer. The first few weeks were rocky, to say the least. Christine came in with her attitude, questioning everything I did and offering her own opinions on how things should be done. It was like she thought she was the boss, not me. But despite the initial friction, I started to notice that she was actually bringing some really valuable ideas to the table. She had a keen eye for detail and was able to spot problems that I had missed. And when we were brainstorming, she would often come up with innovative solutions that I wouldn't have thought of on my own. I was impressed, but I wasn't about to let her know that. Not yet, anyway. As the weeks went by, Christine continued to prove herself. She was a hard worker and was always willing to lend a hand, even when it wasn't necessarily her job. And, although she still had a tendency to be a bit abrasive, I started to see a softer side of her. She was funny in a dry, sarcastic kind of way, and she had a deep empathy for our customers that I hadn't noticed before. Update 1. It's been 3 months since Christine started working at my startup, and I have to say, I'm shocked. She's been an absolute game changer. Her ideas have helped us to secure several major clients, and her attention to detail has saved us from making some costly mistakes. But what's really surprised me is the way she's taken to the company culture. She's always been a bit of a loner, but she's really started to bond with the rest of the team. They love her, and she loves them. It's like she's found a new family. The other day, we were all out for lunch, and Christine started telling this hilarious story about her cat. I was laughing so hard, I had tears in my eyes, and the rest of the team was in stitches. It was like I was seeing a whole new person. After lunch, we all headed back to the office, and I called Christine into my office for a chat. I wanted to talk to her about her performance, and I wanted to thank her for all that she's done for the company. As we sat down, I could see the old Christine, the judgmental one, starting to come back. She was expecting me to criticize her, to tell her what she was doing wrong. But instead, I told her how much I appreciated her and how much she's helped the company. I told her that I was sorry for underestimating her and that I was grateful to have her on board. She was taken aback, but as she left my office, I could see the tension in her body start to dissipate. She was smiling, and it wasn't just a polite smile. It was a real, genuine smile. Update 2. It's been 6 months since Christine started working at my startup, and I'm amazed at the transformation. She's no longer just a judgmental aunt. She's a valued member of the team. And, as for me, I've learned to appreciate her unique perspective and insight. We still have our disagreements, but they're no longer contentious. We can have a disagreement, and then we can laugh about it afterwards. The other day, we were working on a project, and Christine came up with this idea that I thought was crazy. I told her so, and she just smiled and said, "Just hear me out." So I listened, and as she explained her idea, I started to see the genius in it. It was innovative, it was bold, and it was exactly what we needed. I was impressed, and I told her so. She just smiled and said, "I told you I'm a genius." It was a moment of triumph for both of us. We had worked together, and we had come up with something amazing. As we left the office that day, I realized that I had underestimated Christine. I had thought she was just a judgmental aunt, but she's so much more than that. She's a brilliant innovator, and she's helped my startup in ways I never could have imagined. Update 3. It's been a year since Christine started working at my startup, and I'm still amazed at the transformation. She's no longer just a valued member of the team, she's a leader. She's taken on more responsibilities, and she's excelled in every area. And, as for me, I've learned to trust her instincts. I've learned to listen to her ideas and to consider her perspective. We still have our disagreements, but they're no longer contentious. We can have a disagreement, and then we can laugh about it afterwards. The other day, we were working on a project, and Christine came up with this idea that I thought was brilliant. I told her so, and she just smiled and said, "I'm glad you like it." We worked together to develop the idea, and it was a huge success. As we celebrated our victory, I realized that I had learned a valuable lesson. I had learned to appreciate Christine's unique perspective and insight. I had learned to trust her instincts and to consider her ideas. And I had learned to see her in a new light. She's no longer just a judgmental aunt. She's a brilliant innovator and a valued member of my team. As we left the office that day, I turned to Christine and said, "You know, I'm glad I gave you a chance." She just smiled and said, "Me too." It was a moment of triumph for both of us. We had worked together and we had come up with something amazing. And, as we walked out of the office, I knew that our partnership was only just beginning.
My sister's attempt to outdo my garden revealed our backyard has archaeological significance. My sister, Regina, and I have always been competitive, especially when it comes to our gardens. We both live in the same neighborhood, just a few houses down from each other, and for years, we've been trying to outdo each other with our flower arrangements and vegetable patches. I thought I had finally won the battle this year, with my prize-winning roses and perfectly manicured lawn. But Regina had other plans. She showed up at my house last weekend, armed with a shovel and a determined look on her face. "I'm going to dig up the whole backyard and put in a new garden," she announced, eyeing my garden with a critical gaze. I laughed, thinking she was joking, but she just smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, you just watch me," and watch her I did. She spent the entire weekend digging up her yard, hauling away dirt and rocks, and planting all sorts of flowers and vegetables. I have to admit, I was a little impressed. But then, on Sunday evening, she came running over to my house, looking frantic. "You won't believe what I just found," she exclaimed, hardly able to contain her excitement. "What is it?" I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. "I was digging a hole for a new tree, and I hit something hard," she said. "At first, I thought it was just a rock, but then I started digging around it and," she paused, taking a deep breath. "It's an old foundation," she said. "Like a house or something." I was skeptical, but I followed her back to her house to take a look. And sure enough, there was a large, stone foundation, partially buried in the dirt. We both stood there, staring at it, trying to process what it meant. We've lived in this neighborhood our whole lives, and we had no idea that there was an old house buried in Regina's backyard. We started digging some more, to see how extensive the foundation was, and that's when we found the artifacts. There were old bottles, pieces of pottery, and even what looked like an ancient tool. We were both amazed and a little scared. What did it all mean? We decided to call in a professional, an archaeologist from the local university, to come and take a look at our discovery. And that's when things started to get really interesting. The archaeologist, Dr. Knox, arrived on Monday morning, equipped with all sorts of gear and a team of students. They started digging and examining the site, and within hours, they had uncovered even more artifacts. It turned out that our backyard was once the site of an ancient village, dating back thousands of years. We were stunned. We had no idea that our ordinary suburban neighborhood had such a rich history. Update 1: It's been a week since we discovered the ancient village in our backyard, and things have been moving fast. Dr. Knox and his team have been working tirelessly to excavate the site, and they've made some incredible discoveries. They've found evidence of a thriving community, with homes, farms, and even a ritual center. We've also learned that the village was once home to a Native American tribe, one that was thought to be extinct. The news has spread like wildfire, and our neighborhood is now swarming with archaeologists, anthropologists, and even the media. Regina and I are both still trying to wrap our heads around it all. We're excited, of course, but also a little overwhelmed. We're not sure what the future holds, but we know that our lives will never be the same. Dr. Knox has asked us to be a part of the excavation process, and we've both agreed. We're learning so much, not just about the ancient village, but also about our own community. We've met so many interesting people, all of whom are passionate about uncovering the secrets of our backyard. I have to admit, it's been a little frustrating at times. We can't just go out into our backyard whenever we want, because it's now a construction site. But it's worth it, to see the excitement on the faces of the archaeologists, and to know that we're a part of something much bigger than ourselves. Regina and I have also been doing some research of our own, trying to learn more about the history of our neighborhood. We've talked to old-timers, pored over ancient maps, and even visited the local museum. And what we've found is fascinating. It turns out that our neighborhood has a long and varied history, with different cultures and civilizations rising and falling over the centuries. We're not just talking about the ancient village. but also about the early settlers, the pioneers, and even the gangs that used to roam the streets. It's amazing, really, to think about all the people who have lived and died in our neighborhood, and to know that we're now a part of that story. Update 2. It's been a month since we started the excavation, and we've made some incredible progress. The archaeologists have uncovered several homes, a community center, and even a ritual site. We've also found all sorts of artifacts, including tools, pottery, and jewelry. But the most exciting discovery was yet to come. Last week, Dr. Knox and his team stumbled upon an ancient burial ground hidden beneath the roots of an old tree. We were all amazed, and a little awed, by the discovery. The burial ground was incredibly well preserved, with the remains of at least a dozen people. The archaeologists have been working to carefully excavate the site and to learn as much as they can about the people who were buried there. We've also been learning more about the Native American tribe that once lived in our neighborhood. We've met with local elders who have shared their stories and traditions with us, and we've been amazed by the richness and diversity of their culture. We've also been struggling with some of the implications of our discovery. We've had to deal with treasure hunters who are trying to steal our artifacts, and with local residents who are worried about the impact of the excavation on the neighborhood. But through it all, Regina and I have been trying to stay focused on the bigger picture. We know that our backyard has the potential to be a major archaeological site, one that could shed new light on the history of our region. And we're determined to see it through, no matter what challenges we may face. Update 3. It's been 6 months since we started the excavation, and we're finally starting to see the fruits of our labor. The archaeologists have finished their work, and the site is now being prepared for the public. We've built a museum and a visitor center, and we're planning to open the site to tourists next spring. Regina and I are both excited and a little nervous about the prospect of sharing our backyard with the world. We know that it's going to be a big change, but we're also proud of what we've accomplished. We've uncovered a piece of history, and we're determined to preserve it for future generations. We've also been reflecting on what we've learned and how it's changed us. We've learned about the importance of community and about the value of preserving our cultural heritage, and we've been reminded of the beauty and wonder of the world around us. As I look back on the past year, I'm struck by how much our lives have changed. We've gone from being ordinary suburbanites to being the custodians of a major archaeological site, and we've been changed by the experience in ways that we're still discovering. But through it all, Regina and I have remained close, supporting each other through the ups and downs of this incredible journey. And as we look to the future, we know that we'll always have each other's backs, no matter what challenges we may face.
I discovered my father's retirement hobby of fixing old computers is actually him recovering lost Bitcoin wallets for desperate people. Now, I'm questioning everything. My father has always been a bit of a tech enthusiast, so when he retired from his job as an engineer, I wasn't surprised when he started tinkering with old computers in his free time. He would spend hours in his home office, surrounded by wires and circuit boards, and I would often hear him muttering to himself about getting this old girl up and running again. I thought it was cute, and I was happy to see him so passionate about something. That was until I stumbled upon a strange conversation he was having with someone on the phone. I was walking by his office when I heard him say something about recovering a wallet and getting the private key. At first, I thought he was just talking about some kind of computer troubleshooting, but then I heard him mention Bitcoin and my ears perked up. I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was intrigued. I decided to do some digging and see if I could learn more about what my father was up to. I started by snooping around his office, looking for any clues that might give me a better idea of what was going on. That's when I found a folder labeled Bitcoin Recovery with a bunch of notes and documents inside. As I flipped through the papers, I realized that my father was actually helping people recover lost Bitcoin wallets. It seemed that he had developed a skill for recovering the private keys to these wallets, which were essentially the passwords to access the Bitcoin stored inside. I was amazed. I had no idea that my father had such a valuable skill, and I couldn't understand why he was keeping it a secret. I decided to confront him about it, and that's when things got really interesting. He told me that he had stumbled upon an online forum where people were desperate to recover their lost Bitcoin wallets. They had invested in the cryptocurrency, but had lost access to their wallets due to various reasons such as forgotten passwords, lost devices, or corrupted files. My father, being the tech-savvy person he is, had realized that he could use his skills to help these people recover their lost wallets. He started working on it, and soon he was getting messages from all over the world from people who were desperate to get their Bitcoin back. He would work on recovering the wallets and then charge a fee for his services. It was a lucrative business, and my father was making a pretty penny off of it. But here's the thing, he was doing it all in secret. He didn't tell my mother, my siblings, or even me about it. He just kept it hidden away like it was some kind of dirty secret. I couldn't understand why he was being so secretive about it. Was he ashamed of what he was doing? Was he worried that someone would find out and try to steal his skills? I didn't know, but I was determined to get to the bottom of it. Update 1. I've been doing some more digging, and I think I've uncovered a bigger scheme. It seems that my father is not just recovering lost Bitcoin wallets, but he's also helping people to laundry their Bitcoin. From what I've gathered, this means that he's helping them to disguise the origin of their Bitcoin, making it seem like it came from a legitimate source. I'm not sure what to make of this, but it sounds like my father is getting in over his head. I've also found some documents that suggest he's working with some shady characters, people who are using their Bitcoin for illicit activities. I'm getting worried. Is my father in danger? Is he going to get caught up in something he can't handle? I don't know what to do, but I think I need to confront him again. Update 2. I had a long talk with my father, and I think I've gotten to the bottom of things. It turns out that he did start out just recovering lost Bitcoin wallets, but as he got deeper into the game, he started to get approached by people who wanted him to help them with more unsavory activities. He told me that he was initially hesitant, but the money was too good to pass up. He started working with these people, helping them to laundry their Bitcoin and making a pretty penny off of it. But as time went on, he started to get uneasy. He realized that he was in over his head and that he was helping people to do some really bad things. He wanted to get out, but he didn't know how. That's when I stepped in, and I told him that I would help him to get out of the situation. We're going to work together to shut down his Bitcoin recovery business and to get him out of the game for good. It's going to be a long and difficult process, but I think it's the right thing to do. Update 3. It's been a few weeks since we decided to shut down the Bitcoin recovery business, and it's been a wild ride. We've had to deal with some angry clients, people who are counting on my father to help them with their Bitcoin. We've also had to deal with some threats, people who are not happy that my father is getting out of the game. But we're pushing through, and I think we're going to make it out okay. My father is relieved to be out of the situation, and he's grateful to me for helping him. I'm just glad that I could help him, and that we're going to be able to move on from this. I've learned a lot from this experience, and I think it's taught me to be more vigilant. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, and you have to be careful about who you trust. I'm just glad that we're going to be able to put this behind us and to move on to better things. Update 4. I wanted to give a final update on the situation. My father is fully out of the Bitcoin recovery business, and he's focusing on his retirement again. He's doing well, and he's grateful to be out of the situation. I'm just glad that I could help him, and that we're going to be able to move on from this. I've learned a lot from this experience, and I think it's taught me to be more vigilant. I hope that others can learn from our experience, and that they can be careful about who they trust. It's not always easy to do the right thing, but it's always worth it in the end.